Our next presenter is Jonathon Storm. He's been a passionate data-centric enabler for a long time and has been part of our Semantic Arts community member as well. He's going to be delivering a series of lessons learned in regards to how he's been serving as a data architect at S&P Global. And really do appreciate the pay it forward theme that he's going to be bringing to us today, because that's the vision that we have as far as knowledge sharing and giving back. So take it away, Jonathon.
Thank you. Great. What you can do to become data-centric. I'm Jonathon Storm, lead data architect at S&P Global Market Intelligence. I work on the core data architecture team. Of course, forward-looking statements, the corporates made me say this. I caution you to not place undue reliance on any statement I make to do, including assuming that our approach to implementing data-centric architecture is sound. To put it another way, your mileage may vary. What I'm going to cover today is our current data-centric orientation and infrastructure, our business problems and goals, our envisioned solution, and I'll be fairly brief on that. And then I'm going to spend most of the presentation on early days, key findings, and our lessons learned, and then I'll do a quick recap at the end. Chapter 7 of Dave's book, The Data-Centric Revolution, describes market intelligence as building what is essentially a model-driven development paradigm. It's a relational database approach to being data-centric. 3 main advantages: low cost of data platform migration, easy impact analysis, low application change cost. The anecdotal evidence is that MI data-centric approach is delivering up to 100-fold improvements in the cost of making changes to their applications. And I would completely concur, having been with the company for 4 years and seeing what it can do. It is a game changer. My assessment of market intelligence from the Semantic Arts data-centric survey site is that we are about 70% data-centric, though it is a relational database approach without any of the formal semantic stack. So we have some ways to go. On the right-hand side, you see very small, the DMS Pro. It's an internal tool called the Data Management System. This is the search interface where you can search for data structures, tables, columns, etc. S&P Global Market Intelligence has an ideally governed data architecture practice, systematically encoding. Every time a data structure is built, you have to put in a definition for the table and for the column. So we've been doing this for 25 years, and it's bearing a lot of good fruit. On the left, you see our metadata view interface. The data architects use this on a daily basis. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see table notes. That's where they have to write from a data architecture perspective, a developer perspective, what this table is for, what's stored in it. We have the same thing for the items or for the columns. The way the data architecture and development workflow happens is this. The developers don't build their own data structures. They come to the data architects, they create a work ticket and say, this is the kind of data structure we want, this is the meaning, this is our terminology for it, these data constraints, build it for us. The data architects build it, show it to them in this screen, and the developers get used to seeing the DMS screen. And they say, yeah, it's good, or no, fix it. Once they say, this looks good, it's what we need, then the data architect goes to the next phase, and this is the best part. They actually roll it out to development, not to production. So what the data architect did before was putting metadata in to the database, the relational database, and it was just shown up on the screen for whoever wanted to look at it. The next step is where the data architect rolls it out to actually make the change in the target database. So this left screen shows you where the final screen before the data architect presses the rollout button. There is the option. They can select, yeah, I don't want to drop that index or that one because we need to keep it, but all these other things I want to do, they can check, uncheck, and then they hit rollout and roll them out. The tool creates a bunch of SQL scripts in PostgreSQL, Oracle, SQL Server. It creates the rollout scripts, the rollback scripts, and then it executes the rollout scripts and shows the results as it goes along. It can also instrument replication. This is very, very slick. After the data architect has actually pushed the changes from development from the database, the DMS database, to the development server, the user, the dev goes in, examines it, says, yeah, this is good. Then it gets rolled out to production. This is a truly revolutionary system. So our business problem so far, next, we have a great system, but it's relational based, no semantics. We have a ton of data sets, internal, external. We have no self-service tool. We have no business user-centric tool for navigating the data sets. That's what we need. And as you saw earlier, the table definitions and the column definitions define not semantics, but the semantics of the data structure. So we need to create a harmonized collection of user-centric metadata, not developer-centric. We need to link this user-centric metadata to data sets, data sources, so that business users can easily explore, discover, and find the data they seek. Our envisioned solution is to iteratively acquire these capabilities. We're still in the piloting phase, or we're just moving beyond piloting to starting to go into production in a very measured approach. We want to acquire roles and skills, create multiple domain teams for each business unit, each product line. They will have data stewards, subject matter experts, taxonomists. In the mind map snippet on the right, you can see the data science group has physical data dictionaries and domain taxonomies. So the vision is to have a collection of federated taxonomies that are linked to data dictionaries for the existing and upcoming data structures. Those are owned by the product lines, by the business lines, by the groups who manage them. However, we also want to add a layer on top of that to provide linking. So on the right-hand side where it says platforms and channels, we want to add a linking taxonomy instead of that core candidate. I've changed that. And a core taxonomy, and it'll be backed by a core ontology. The linking taxonomy and core taxonomy will integrate the various domain taxonomies, which to a degree will be silos in and of themselves. So that's the grand vision of how we envision putting it together. The core ontology will be a later element because we are laying track as the train is coming, and the ontology is going to be helpful, but I figure that'll come in 6 months or a year. And we'll use that in this first iteration to test and prove and validate and improve the core taxonomy terms. I've described what we have, where we are, and what we hope to do. But what have we learned along the way? And what can I share with others about how I do data-centric? That's what I'll cover for the rest of my presentation. These key findings and lessons are from my perspective as a data-centric practitioner. I'm still called a lead data architect, even though I'm doing data-centric stuff. I'm hoping that my job title will change at some point. If you want to help your organization become data-centric, you must be the change that you seek. You can become a data-centric champion. Most of you doubtless are. Since my interview to be a lead data architect in early 2019, I've grown into the role. I had no promise of being able to do it, just the hope that I'd be able to do graph, database work, and semantic work. There are 8 tips for becoming a data-centric champion. The first one is you want to recognize that you are promoting 2 things. Firstly, disciplines. We in IT have been seduced by technological capability as the answer for our problems. We have sidelined the ancient practice of mastering a field of expertise. We need to seek both human mastery of expertise, the semantic practice, the know-how, as well as the technology. Secondly, you want to develop your own practice of data-centric technologies outside the workforce, outside your professional life. I started my path in 1994 when I was trying to archive all of my metadata for nature sound recordings. And over the years, it's grown into a data-centric system for my wife and myself to manage our 11 terabytes of digital assets on many different hard drives. That's my personal project. My career path over the last few decades has been figuring out the best way to do that. So for yourself, have a personal project if that's possible. I made it known to my boss, step number 3, that I wanted to do data-centric. And I regularly brought things, ways we could improve our existing systems, our existing workspace to my boss and to others. I tried to not be too strident, and I think I actually achieved that. The fourth one is you want to get all the training you can get. Focus on data-centric training. I've been able to do on company time most of the semantic arts events, and I'm very thankful. Number 5, I've also asked for numerous jobs, numerous tasks. I've had a few data-centric projects, graph projects. Some of them lasted a few weeks, a few months, a year. The last one, over a year now, has been fully data-centric with an ontology, starting with GIST and developing into the full project that I started with. Number 6, you want to make sure that you faithfully serve in your tasks, whether they're data-centric or not. To be a champion, you need to be putting your heart into whatever tasks you get, whether they're data-centric or not. And rejoice when you have the fun data-centric stuff, and when you don't, make sure you're doing a great job. Your leadership will see that you're good at anything you do. And that's when they say, yeah, we need to give this person more work, the kind of stuff they want because it's finally opened up. You want to build trust with them and show that you are trustworthy. Number 7, you want to understand how long your organization may take to change. It is usually longer than you think. You cannot rush your organization, your company. You need to be patient. I decided at the beginning of my work, starting at S&P Global, that I would give them 4 or 5 years, and if nothing really significant turned up, I'd find a new job. Finally, thankfully, the significant data-centric work has shown up. If not, I would have gone on and given them a lot of good work. Number 8, I know that I can be the catalyst for significant change wherever I am. I can be an innovator like Leonardo da Vinci. When you look back through history, you see that there are many people who made great breakthroughs in many different endeavors. They were able to do these things because they took heart and practiced these principles. Do whatever it takes. You can do great things. This kind of attitude is what it takes to be successful. You want to network throughout your organization. This is something I've done from the beginning. I've been quietly assessing what data-centric foundations we have, what components, what are needed. In the process, I got to know who is who, and I continue to discover new projects and new people. Some people are positive to data-centric. I make note of them and try to work with them. Some don't know, some are ambivalent, some, even leadership, are negative. So I found out, why are they negative? Well, it's because they tried a project or they were involved in one and it failed, or it turned out to be too big. You want to be able to answer every critic who comes your way, to give them an answer about why you are going to be able to succeed where their team or their circumstance failed. But what if you are leadership? If you're in leadership, you have a lot you can do. What you can do is support and encourage your champion or someone who you're trying to develop into a champion. Encourage them to proceed, but be honest and level with them about the roadblocks and how to navigate. This is what Gregory Lawson, my boss, and Hamish Brookman, my boss's boss, have done at every step of the way. Provide for your champion constraints. If they're zealots, give them some, help them achieve some balance. If they talk too revolutionary, help them to talk about being evolutionary. Provide what they need to succeed. Give them guidance. And if they need outside help, give them that if possible. Test those who would be a champion, who you are leading. If they're faithful to submit to your leadership, to take advice, to learn and to grow, there are indeed champions. If they're not ready to be a real good champion, and they can cause damage. If your champion follows your leadership, put them to work, give them more voice, they can be key to change. And recognize, finally, that some champions may or may not have the patience for such a long, arduous journey. Those with sufficient patience to wait out the organizational change cycles, they are gold. They will be able to do great things. Some of them might not quite have the patience, and they might end up finding another job. But a new champion will probably come along. You want to, in your networking and learning about your environment, be praising and building upon any good data-centric foundation or component. Build upon what exists, further the overall progress, be positive and encouraging. When I started at S&P, I realized we are fairly data-centric, and it wasn't the kind of data-centric I want, so I said, well, I want it to be this way, but we're data-centric. I'm going to promote, I'm going to say this is great. Let's move to become completely data-centric. So that's been my mantra. We are data-centric. We want to get to be completely data-centric. You want to iterate in an evolutionary manner as you solve real business problems. It's good to avoid seeing semantics as a hammer looking for a nail. Semantic disciplines are not a solution looking for a problem. That's the wrong way around. We don't want to push data-centric on our customers. We're here to solve their problems. And data-centric is an excellent solution to many problems, but not necessarily all. When data-centric is the best solution, we'll recommend it. We are here to touch people's pain points and make them better. We're here to understand the problems as they are framed by those who want help. As you understand their perspective, you can formulate a good solution. I've been thinking about this for years, and gradually, step by step, I've understood problems and I've had many solutions, but I've mostly kept them to myself until leadership was ready to move, because I'm not a leader at this. I'm not in leadership. I'm just on a team. But now the opportunities are coming. We want to create better solutions using data-centric architecture one at a time. We can't fix them all at once. Promise what you know you can deliver. Promise little, but deliver a lot. I try to use the word revolutionary because at heart I feel like a revolutionary, but Greg and Hamish, they both say, no, we don't use that word. Leadership sees it as a silver bullet, a bunch of hype. Use the word evolutionary. So that's what I do. The main thing we want to say is this is iteration over time, solving problems, moving forward. I discovered that a few projects, data-centric, have come about in multiple of the divisions at S&P Global. And even within market intelligence, there are now 2, maybe 3. And there's a little bit of competition amongst 2 of them, but the outcome, I think, is going to be complementary. So if you ever find multiple data-centric projects or endeavors working side by side or separately, do what you can to connect with those people and build synergies and try to work together, because the odds are very good that even in things that appear to compete, they'll actually turn out to be complementary. You want to tactically execute a good strategy. You want to be patient and persistent and expect that the necessary miracles will happen. What we are doing is we are purveying business culture change. Culture change is the number one thing we're doing. So keep this in mind. People like things to stay the same enough of the time. But some people also like to see change, just not too much, because if they don't see change, they get bored. We are influencing, or we're leading, measured change, just as Dave talked about in his article about incremental legacy stealth modernization. Once your organization sets out to add data-centric capability, someone or someones in your organization must be in it for the long haul. To become partially data-centric will take at least a few years. It might take 5 to 8. To make significant change, maybe even 5 to 10 years. To become completely data-centric will likely take decades. My friends, this is a multi-generational journey. Some start, others will finish. It will be a team effort, requiring patience, persistence along the way. At S&P Global, the data-centric journey began with the DMS Pro system 25 years ago. The reason DMS Pro has survived the multiple organizational changes because it came from S&L, which was bought by McGraw-Hill, I think, and then that was bought by S&P Global, and probably another one or two in there. The reason it survived is because it has middle leadership, team leadership, and senior leadership support, as well as people in the trenches. Hamish Brookman is the middle leadership, my boss's boss. He's been with the company for a few decades, I think. He has consistently advocated for the data management system, for the DMS Pro, because he has been there to carry the DNA, to carry that part, the DMS version of data-centric architecture. It survived. My boss, Greg Lawson, has been with the company about 14 years. He has been leading the team and leading the work to keep the DMS going. And senior leadership has at various times made good decisions, or they have made decisions that were not bad, that were neutral. And that is the key, because one bad decision by senior leadership can kill a very good data-centric start or program. So what you want is you want the miracle of leadership making good or not bad decisions. The DMS Pro has survived because the company has a strong culture of excellence, and it takes a spirit of excellence to be able to do data-centric really well. The final step, the final lesson 8, is pay it forward. For those of you who are prepared, you can mentor individuals you find who may want your expertise in data-centric practice. Mentoring goes back to the dawn of time, when we became what we are today. This is a harder task to do than all of the others. I do it as I find those who want to be mentored, who I think are suited for it. Here's my story. In 2014, I turned 50 years old. I decided that from then on, I would formally mentor young men and young couples with my wife. Our goal would be to mentor them to emotional maturity, not to data-centric practice per se. And I would do my mentoring outside my professional life. I would mentor those who I ran into as I went through life that had some need that I could fill. I would mentor them on a volunteer basis. And data-centric would come into it for those who I knew were ready for it. Since 2014, I have mentored about 20 individuals. At any one time, I've had 2 to 4 in a multiple year formal mentoring relationship. Each week, I spend 8 to 18 hours directly serving these young men and women. I never take pay for this. For those I mentor who have the interest and aptitude, I want to bring them into the data-centric revolution. It's my goal that by 2034, when I am 70 years old, when I retire, I'll have 5 to 10 of the men and women I've mentored who are excited about data-centric, who are ontologists, who have already got a job or are starting to work in it, because I want to then start a data-centric organization with those 5 or 10. We'll be advancing data centricity in a powerful way. You see, I don't want to be bored after I'm 70, and I hope to live a long time in strength. That's my story. What about you? Do you have connections with other people who could use your help in life or in data-centric practice? Do you know folks who could be benefited by your help in data-centric coaching? A guy told me many years ago that if you want to do something well, do it yourself. Don't get others involved. Because the moment you get others involved, it'll take 10 times longer to do it. But when you die, it will die with you. So if you want to have a legacy, pour into the lives of others and show them the good things that you have been given. So if you have the personal resources, if you are emotionally mature enough and you can make the connections, you can raise up a generation of data-centric champions. This is a big step to making data-centric worldwide normal in the future. You do this one person at a time. I described a little bit about the data-centric work we're doing. I covered 8 early days findings, lessons learned. Firstly, you can be a data-centric champion. You can network throughout your enterprise. If you're a leader, you can support, constrain, develop, and use your champions. You can build upon existing data-centric components. You can iterate in an evolutionary manner as you solve real customer needs. You can seek synergistic cooperation and mutual advancement. You can tactically execute. Be patient and persistent and expect for the miraculous to save the day, and you can pay it forward. I'm Jonathon Storm, JONATHON.STORM at Reach out if you like. I guess time for a few questions and answers.
There was one question in the chat kind of early on regarding how long it usually takes for a developer to have the desired schema.
To have the desired schema for a semantic model?
I think it was pretty early on when you were discussing, the sort of the process for not going quite into production, but.
Well, we haven't finished our first taxonomy. We are just the goal for year 1. We're using Calibra as our taxonomy management, and then we'll bolt onto it the ontological components that we need. So it's going to be a year before we get a few significant data sets onboarded, and that's where we test and prove everything. So it's going to be a few months from the time a business group says we want to have our data sets cataloged in the system and be available for improved taxonomy. This is not ontology yet. That'll come in probably 2024. It'll be at least a few months before they're able to move into actually get some kind of a schema, some kind of a tooling around it. But we're doing this slow. I'm the only taxonomist in market intelligence and the only ontologist, and I don't have the job title at this time. I aspire to it.
Yep.
Does that answer the question?
Yep. And another one, in your early days to now, how or what did you find helpful to overcome moments of being overwhelmed when it seemed that any movement forward depended on you?
Well, you've got to find the resources. If you're a praying person, that's a solution. No matter who you are, you have to take the long view. Things just take time. I've been married 39 years, and I recognized many years ago that if I couldn't walk out the duration of this relationship, I wouldn't get to where I wanted to go. I had to be patient. And I knew I had time boxed. I said, I have 4 to 5 years. I'm going to pour my life into this company for my 40 hours a week. And if they use me for ontology, great. If they don't, I'm moving on. So that was what helped. That gave me the patience to live through those first few years where I was getting very little data-centric.
Awesome.
I think that's all we got, JT, isn't it?
One more in here. Do you in any way, shape, or form use the FIBO ontology?
I've looked at it. Our foundation is GIST. as well as DCAT, because DCAT is for data sets, just as the simplest upper ontology I've run across. We will do what others have mentioned earlier, or in the GIST chat room earlier yesterday, is we'll use FIBO when we have a need for harvesting components, because we want to keep FIBO is way too big and complex, and we might not need lots of it. And GIST, I think, is a better framework.
Very good. Yep, that is it.
Jonathan, thank you so much for sharing your story and the characteristics that are necessary to help embrace data centricity within a complex environment. So thank you again, and join us for the networking session later this afternoon.
I'll do that. Thank you.